Well, welcome to the Noble Shire for Progressive Discussion. Matthew, see, I'd miss up one of them. Matthew Dolmish, and he is of the Victoria, BC Canadian progressive rock band Versa. And oh my God, we finally found somebody close again. Big fan of Moonletters. We're going to be talking about them a little bit. They're right here in the Seattle area, well, in the Seattle area. But now I got a friend over in Victoria, and it's so great to have another progressive rock band close by. And they have put together a masterpiece. I mean, and I compared in my review to Yes and Moody Blues. They really put a lot of time, effort into a voyage, a destination. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. And you released this on Friday, March 6th, so it's fairly new, although it is a replay, I should say, of a 2020 album. But they did a lot more work. He's going to tell you what they did to add to it because this is their 20th anniversary as a band. So let's get things started. My wife always says I do too long introductions, so I'm gonna cut this one short. Um, Tell us, Matthew, how the band began, emerged, evolved, where you came up with the name, and tell us about this 20th anniversary celebration.
Sure. Okay. Well, it's been 20 years. It's kind of incredible to to oh my God,
Hear
we've been in a
that?
band for
Yeah.
20 years. So the band was initially myself, Hollis Longton, who's still in the band, who's our violinist and co-composer of a lot of the music with me. And it was Ben on guitar, Anthony on bass, Janelle on keys, who's still with the band, and Kevin on drums. And most of us met at the University of Victoria. So Hollis and Kevin were both music students in the School of Music. Ben and Anthony were in a prototype program, which is now was successful and is now just a regular degree program, which is a hybrid computer science and music degree. So they were the first class to go through that, and then Janelle was a friend of my girlfriend's at the time, and so we got together. We started playing music, mostly sort of really post rock in the beginning, just instrumental post rock. I didn't like writing lyrics. None of us were great singers, and so we just sort of focused on instrumental stuff. I always loved prog, but it felt a little bit beyond us both as musicians and for me in particular as a composer at the time that we formed. So that first album, it's all just post rock. But as the band has evolved, as we've had a few member changes, as we have grown as musicians and as writers, we've incorporated more progressive rock elements into our sound, and more songs with vocal parts and lyrics and things like that. As I've sort of changed my perspective on writing that kind of thing, and so now we are really, I would say, we're a progressive rock band first with post rock and indie rock elements blended into the sound.
Oh yeah, they are definitely a progressive rock band. This album, like I say, well, and we're going to talk about some of the very important people that are playing on this album, from very important progressive rock bands. So I think you've been welcomed into the hierarchy pretty well, and that's a good sign. But this is just an amazing album.
Well, thank you.
Who were your influences? Because you
Uh,
said you like Prague.
yeah. I mean, early on, the first prog band, the band that really introduced me to prog, my dad was a big Jethro Tull fan,
Oh yeah.
and he had a couple of the early Jethro Tull albums. He had Aqualung on 8-track, and he
Oh,
had LP of Living in the Past, the double album of like B-sides and live stuff and things, that compilation album. And I always liked Living in the Past, but
great
it
album.
never really blew me away. It was sort of a record we put on, and like, oh, this is good. I like Jethro Tull, and I played flute growing up. I played flute in
Oh,
high school band and things like that, and so my dad was always saying, "You got to listen to Jethro Tull. You got to listen to Jethro Tull." Like, okay, all right, I'll listen to Jethro Tull. Um, and he had a couple of ELP records as well, which I liked, but again, I wasn't like, this is life changing music. But then when I moved away to go to university, And I didn't have a whole lot of money. And at that time it was 2001. Records were very out of fashion. So if you wanted music on a budget, buy records. $2-3 a pop to get lots of great classic records. And so I started buying records, and one of the first ones I bought when I moved down to go to school was MU, The Best of Jethro Tull. I pulled it out. I went, oh
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
I like Jethro Tull, and maybe I'll explore it a little bit more. And I can't remember what's on side one. I liked it fine. I turned it over. Side two opened with "Skating Away on the Thin Ice of the New Day,"
Yeah.
and I heard that song, and I thought, this is the greatest piece of music I have ever heard in my entire life.
Wow.
And became an obsessive Jethro Tull fan. Just started working through the whole catalog, listening to everything, completely falling in love. From there, I moved, started listening to Yes and King Crimson and Genesis and Gentle Giant and all the other big classic '70s progressive rock bands. Particularly, fell in love with King Crimson and Genesis. Genesis is sort of my other big love in the classic prog world. Um, and and then around the same time, I was also listening to a lot of post rock music, a lot of Sigur Rós, a lot of Godspeed You Black Emperor, a lot of Mogwai, bands like that. So that was really shaping me early on. The other primary writer in the band, Hollis, our violinist, he comes from a very classical background. He's got a PhD in classical music. He's been playing classical violin since he was 4 years old. He's incredible, and he's very involved in the sort of contemporary music world and bringing in some of those influences. But he's also real sort of '90s art rock and alternative rock guy. He loves Radiohead. He loves Nine Inch Nails, Bjork, like those kinds of bands. So when he sort of puts himself into the rock mode for writing, those are the sorts of things that he's drawing along with his classical influences. Um, and then more recently, I was sort of completely oblivious to the world of modern progressive rock music for years and years and years. And I bought a Spock's Beard album in like 2006 or 2007, and I listened to it once, and it didn't grab me. It was Five, or V, the fifth album. Didn't grab me. I put it on the shelf. Didn't listen to it, and like 10 years later, around 2016, I was doing a clean out of some CDs, things I didn't listen to anymore, and I pulled that off the shelf, and I went, I didn't like this. I haven't listened to it in years. And something in the back of my head went, try it one
One
more
more
time.
time. Yeah.
One more time. And I put it on again, and I went, oh my God, how did I miss this the first time? And it blew me away. And I just completely fell in love with Neil Morse's music. I bought all the other Spock's Beard albums. I started listening to Transatlantic and Flying Colors, and then from Transatlantic, I started listening to Marillion and Dream Theater, and Flower Kings, and then I sort of discovered this whole world of modern prog that I didn't even know existed through that. And I got a chance to meet Neil a few years ago, and I told him that story, and he laughed and he said, "That's not the way people usually come to my music." He said it's completely backwards. Usually, people are Dream Theater fans, and
Oh yeah.
from Mike they go to Transatlantic, and then they discover Neil's music through Transatlantic. But for me, it was the other way. I was aware of Dream Theater's existence. I'd heard bits and pieces, but it wasn't until I started listening to Transatlantic, and then I went, okay, I should listen to Dream Theater again because this is really fantastic. And then yeah, got into progressive metal music and Haken and Caligula's Horse and guys like that, and Leprous and that whole world. And my wife has never been a progressive rock fan, but when I started listening to progressive metal and getting into Haken and Leprous and things like that, she really gravitated to that music. And so now she's an enthusiastic participant, which is nice as well.
My wife can listen to Genesis, but and yes, and a few of the others, but she's not a real progressive rock fan either. But
Yeah.
yeah, I know that's tough. It's tough to bridge that. And
Yeah.
you also mentioned the early tell. It's just so
Mm-hmm.
funny how age puts sort of not a barrier, but like when I think of early tell, their first couple albums were actually blues,
Oh
and
yeah. Yeah.
and yeah, and people are like, "This is Jethro Tull," and
Yeah.
it makes it easier for people my age to understand why they got that heavy metal award.
Mm-hmm.
And no, I mean it's not really heavy metal, but
There's a
um,
couple really good hard
you
rocking
could
songs on
see,
Crescent
yeah,
Wave,
you
and that
could
it
see
was
where
hard rock and heavy metal. I'd
yeah.
say Steel Monkey and Farm on a Freeway and things like that. Those are hard rock songs.
But that story that you shared about Spock's beard brought back memories of me, of mine, and that is, have you ever heard the band Traffic?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Have you listened to them though? See, I
Only.
I heard it on the
Yeah.
radio when I was young. I know I did, and
Yeah.
it just kind of like. this Box Beer drifted by me, didn't listen to it. One day, it was during Steve Winwood's solo era where he was just on top of the world. And it was back then that I said, I wonder what else he's made. And then I went
Yep.
back and listened into Traffic, and holy moly, there's a song. I can't remember the title right now, but it basically predates Fool's Overture by Supertramp, and it basically lays out the opening of Fool's Overture. And I mean, there's just, and if you like Tull, you'll love Traffic because a lot of flute,
Oh,
and
yeah, I've only sort of
unbelievable
listened to
flute.
them in passing, so I'll have to dig deeper into them.
So yeah, if you get a chance, go back. I tell a lot of people this because, like I said, I never had a Traffic. Now I've got the entire collection, the catalog. Same thing with Tull, and I've got boxes of Tull because he's made so many albums and he keeps
Yeah,
making
yeah,
them,
yep,
even at his age, and it's
yeah. Well,
fantastic.
the most recent one I thought was the best thing they've done since the early '80s. It's a Curious Ruminant with just fantastic record.
Yeah, he doesn't make a bad album, really.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, Rock
so
Island's
that's
my
good.
favorite.
Huh?
I said Rock Island's not my favorite, but
Yeah,
that's
but
the only one I
there's
would.
some
There's still a
songs.
couple moments. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
And usually on just about every album, you can find
Hmm.
at least one or two.
Yeah.
Sometimes, mostly the title song is usually fantastic because that's the one that inspired them. But all right, well, now we did already talk about this, but I can't wait for you to talk about the announcement. But they are going on tour. They're going to take this now. The question I didn't ask you, and I'm going to ask you now, are you going to do the whole? I mean, this is a huge album. Are you going to do the whole album from front to back?
No,
Probably
no.
not.
So we're not going on tour. We're just doing two shows,
Two
or maybe
shows.
three.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead
If you
and
count a
talk
tour.
about those two and
Yeah.
what you're going to try to do.
Sure. Yeah. No, we're not going to try to do the whole thing.
It's a
It's
lot.
two albums. It's 2 hours of material. Plus we have other stuff we want to play as well. So we have older albums and things that we got to draw from. And so no, we're not going to do that. We're prepping an hour of material. So we're going to do I think two of the epics, probably Pool of the Naiads and Artemis. We're going to do a couple of the shorter songs like Sea of Vapors, maybe, or Lantern Season, and Flew the Coop. And then we're going to do a couple of songs from our second album, The Decline and Fall of. So there's a instrumental post-rock piece on that second album called We're Not What We Say We Are, which is by far our most successful song. It eclipses everything else we've done by a huge margin. And so we'll be performing that. And then there's a sort of suite of songs that closes out that album that's a real blend of progressive rock and post-rock music called Uncommon Things. And so we're going to play that as well.
And by the way, this is the first album that I've heard of theirs, and believe me, it is a huge piece of music to get through. So I'm going to go back and look at the rest of his catalog that he's mentioned. I haven't heard any of it, but if it's
Well,
up
the
to
first album's
caliber,
pretty. The first album's a little, it's a first album. The
okay.
second
Well,
album I'm very proud of. I think the second album has lots of good stuff on it. The
but
first
yeah,
album,
I
I've been kind of
definitely.
meaning to go back and remix it and redo some of the drum parts and clean it up a bit because I think there's some interesting ideas on there. But it's temper your expectations for that one.
All right, and he mentioned both of these shows. I think are in the Vancouver, Canada area. Do you want to just mention where those are? I'm not sure who's listening, or we may get some more people that. Oh, I didn't know
Sure.
about that. I'll go to
Yeah.
see that show. Yeah.
Yeah, so the we're playing Vancouver on June 7th. And I actually don't know where that show is happening. The promoter told us he put holds on two different venues, and I actually need to reach out to him and confirm which venue is the final venue. So June 7th, either at the Astoria or the Cobalt. We played the Cobalt before. I don't think we've ever played Astoria. So that's the Vancouver show. And then here in Victoria, we are playing a place called the Bauman Center, which is a
Oh,
new venue. It's the venue where the Victoria Opera Society rehearses their operas. It's a beautiful space. It's really well acoustically treated. It's very much set up for the presentation of music, and we'll be recording that show. Hopefully, it
And
goes well. If it goes well,
which day is that? I
that's
think
sorry, June 14th. Yeah,
okay, I think
that's
that's
Sunday, June
the
14th here in Victoria.
we're gonna shoot for that.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
And the ferry ride is so much fun, believe me.
Yes. Yeah.
I again don't know where everyone's listening from, but Victoria, Vancouver, anywhere in Canada, really, but especially this West Coast, it is top of the world. It's just beautiful up there. My wife and I regularly go to English Bay. We love the Cactus Club and sitting there by the, you know what I'm talking about?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, he knows. Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you're from Vancouver, you know, and the thing is, everyone laughs at me when I say it, but they have palm trees all over the place. And it's like, yeah, it is a beach and it's a sand beach and
Yeah.
it's
Oh
beautiful.
yeah.
But and I didn't have a chance to talk to him about this, but to avoid the 99 is a horrible road, just like we have horrible roads over here. You have oncoming traffic coming at you at 50, 60, whatever, 70
If you're
miles an
driving through the
hour.
tunnel, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or over the
No,
or
but
over
all the
the
way into
bridge.
the city. So I
Yeah.
avoid that and I actually go around the University of British Columbia and I come
Oh yeah,
down
that's
the
a nice route to
hill.
take. Yeah.
I come down the hill and get to see Spanish Banks, that whole area. And there's a huge beach that goes from Spanish Banks all the way to um, English Bay, and we've actually walked most of it, not the whole thing, but they have volleyball court nets and everything. And in the summertime, it is just absolutely beautiful there. So Vancouver is beautiful. Now I haven't explored the waterfront as much, and there in Victoria is kind of like it's a peninsula, basically part of an island, and we just finally got to Nanaimo last year, and love that, and we're probably going to go over to what's the place on the other side, the surf area.
Tofino?
Tofino, yeah, it finally hit me.
Yeah.
But and then we're gonna definitely stay in Victoria. But yeah, if you
Yeah,
get
the
a
drive out
chance,
to Tofino is pretty spectacular.
the drive,
Yeah, oh yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and that's the thing. This island is just absolutely beautiful. Rainforest, mountains, ocean surrounding you. You got to watch out for the grizzlies, though. Have
No
you ever
grizzlies
seen
on the
one?
island. Black bears only. There's
Oh,
only grizzlies on
really?
the mainland. There's no grizzlies on the island. Yeah.
Oh no, 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 you're wrong there. It's one of the most infestated in the world, I think. Now, I read that somewhere.
That's mistaken.
It's
There
a
are no grizzlies on
mistake.
Vancouver
Oh,
Island. Yeah. There are no grizzlies on Vancouver Island. There's lots of black bears, but there's no grizzlies on the island. There's lots
I
on the
hope you're
mainland.
right. I
Yeah.
hope you're right.
I promise. I've lived here my whole life. I
Well,
promise.
that's true. He would know more than me. But in the guides and things on the internet, I guess you
Yeah.
hear that it's one of the most infestated.
Mm.
Maybe the northern part. I bet the
Nope.
northern.
I
No.
grew up on the North Island. There's not a grizzly on the island.
Wow. Okay.
There's lots of black bears. There's if you get out in the bush on the island, you got to be careful. There's black bears. There's lots of cougars. There are no grizzlies.
Okay. Well, learn something today.
Yeah.
But definitely it's a beautiful place in itself. And then you get to go see a nice concert and in what he described like an opera hall. Yeah, I think we're gonna definitely send me that
Yeah,
location
absolutely.
and date.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's the one. My wife is gonna hear about the opera style, and yeah, she's in.
Well,
And
it's going to be an interesting show too because we are playing
and
with
you're
two other
recording.
artists. We're going to record it, yeah, and then we're playing with. So Andrew Bailey is going to open the show.
Oh wow.
Andrew is not a musician; he's a storyteller and a comic writer, and he is a really wonderful storyteller, very funny, very thoughtful, very insightful. So he's going to tell some of his stories for about half an hour. And then our friend Claire Coupland, who's sung some backup vocals and things for us on our albums, and is a fantastic like indie folk singer songwriter. She's going to play a set. We may play a little bit with her, and then she's going to come back and join us and be singing some backing vocals and playing some acoustic guitar with us. So it's going to be a very collaborative evening.
And they're recording it, and oh yeah, no, no, yeah, we'll definitely shoot for that one. Beyond that, any talk of maybe Europe or US or that?
um,
Right now,
no.
it's really tough. Yeah, yeah. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
So the answer is no. And there are a couple of reasons for that. And never say never. Things can change in the future.
Yeah,
Um, but for us, this being on the West Coast, but it's even more extreme being on the island. This part of the world, it is hard to be a small band touring. If you're on the East Coast of the United States and Canada, or if you're in the UK, or if you're in, Scandinavia or something like that, um, you have access to many urban centers
yeah,
at a close drive away, right? You can do all kinds of shows in the New York, New Jersey area, and then you can do Buffalo, and you can do Pittsburgh, and you can do Philadelphia, and all that stuff, only having to drive, 5 hours at most. And the same thing in the UK. You can do everywhere in the UK is a 6 hour drive away at most. So you can play everywhere in the UK as a small band without having to do extensive travel. For us, the only major urban center that's nearby is Vancouver, and it's a ferry ride away. And then from Vancouver, we would have to go to the Okanagan, which is a 6 hour drive, and that's not a huge urban center. It's 150,000 people. And then the next place is Calgary, and that's a 10
Calgary
hour drive from
is.
the Okanagan.
Yeah,
And then it's across the country to Ontario to get to the next. There's a couple places in between, but it's like 3 day drive to
yeah,
of nothing but driving to go from Alberta to Ontario. Like it's a huge distance. Or we've tried once in the past to do a West Coast tour and it didn't come together. You can do the coast a little bit more easily, do Seattle, Portland, San Francisco, Los Angeles, and back up and hit some different places. But that requires a visa, and visas take almost a year to get and cost like $10,000 at the moment
wow,
for foreign musicians touring the United States. So it's not practical for us in that respect. It's also difficult because we're not a young band just starting out. We've been
no,
together for 20 years. We all have jobs, we have families, and we have those kinds of commitments. And it's hard to sort of put those things on hold to just pile into a bus and, play some little 300, little bars and things like that. Um, I would love, part of the reason that we're doing this live recording, um, and trying to get this out a little bit more with the new album is to try and get on the festival circuit a little bit, because there's some really great prog festivals in Canada, the United States, and Europe, things like
yes,
that. There's Terra Firma and Prog Storm both happen in Quebec. There's like Prog on the Ranch, and there's one in New Jersey. The name just escapes me. There's Cruise to the Edge, and then there's all the UK and European festivals.
yeah.
Um,
There's a couple
I'd
more in the east too,
Yeah, yeah.
Quebec, and
Mhm.
I hear about them all the time. Yeah,
Yeah, and so if we were, if we got an invite to do a festival like that, where it's, you play to a much bigger audience because it's a festival, and it's sort of one-offs, where you take, you take 4 days off, you take 5 days off from work, you don't have to take 3 months off. That's a lot more feasible for us, and that's sort of our long-term goal, to get out and play some music and hopefully get some people to come out to see us. Very unlikely we're ever going to tour, but if we can get on some festivals and play some places like that, then we would definitely be interested in doing that.
I'm going to add another city to your schedule, I hope, for the future. If you come down this way, definitely don't bypass Bellingham. And there's a
Oh yeah.
Mount Baker Theater. I don't know if you ever heard of it, but it's like a um, Depression era. What's the word I was looking for? Um, the New Deal, where they build all these wonderful opera theaters and things like that. And it's a beautiful. We just got done seeing a silent movie over there last weekend or a couple weekends ago. and they do a fantastic job. They've had a lot of big named artists in there, and it's that in between Seattle and Vancouver. Some people
Yes.
can't drive from here all the way down to Seattle or to Vancouver, and you get a good. Um, this place was sold out for a silent movie. I mean,
Oh wow.
who goes to silent movies
Yeah,
anymore?
that's neat. Yeah, I
So
mean, if we can ever work out the
yeah,
logistics and the finances of getting into play, maybe if there's a change in policy, it didn't used to be so expensive to get a visa as a sort of
and
small artist coming down to do just a couple of shows. So
maybe we can get a few of these Seattle bands to meet you there too. So yeah, there
yeah,
we'll talk about that. We'll see
yeah,
what we can do. I've got a few new other Seattle bands that are coming out with some albums. Maybe we can bring it all together. That'd be nice.
yeah. Yeah, well, we
I'd
talked
love to
before the
do it.
recording
Yeah.
started about Moonletters, our friends Moonletters in Seattle, and we've been trying to get something together for a couple of years with them, and like I say, with the visa issue coming to the States, it's been really hard for us to get down to Seattle, and then we've invited them up here once or twice for shows, and it just the timing hasn't worked out. We did invite them actually for this June show, but their bassist is on tour with a different band, so they weren't able to make it, which is really too bad. But one day soon, we're going to do something with Moonletters.
I hope so. That's one of the ones I would have definitely tried to put together.
Hmm.
He loves it up here too. Michael, and
Yeah,
we're talking about Michael True. He comes up to Bellingham every now and again, and his keyboardist has done a show up here with his own band in Bellingham. Not the Mount Baker Theater, but that's what I would love to see. Maybe a small little 2 or 3 day festival and we can get everyone together, but we'll see.
that would be
But
amazing.
go ahead and talk about Michael since you brought that up. He's one of my favorite. I call him the best prog voice west of the Rockies. He's got that. I call it the Phil Collins sound, the early Phil Collins sound, and he just does a fantastic job. He's not only has he been doing Moonletters, they went to the UK, and I think they did a few shows in Europe last year. And he's been on a bunch of different other people's albums, and just finally getting the due that he should be.
Yeah,
And you guys liked his voice enough that you put him on one of the best songs on the album. Talk a little bit about that, and you
yeah.
sort of talked a little bit about the friendship that you guys had, but go from there.
Yeah, well, so I unfortunately still haven't seen Moonletters perform. I haven't met Michael in person. We talk online fairly regularly, but the Moonletters' second album came out around the same time that the first Voyage Destination came out in 2022, and was getting coverage in some of the same blogs and things like that. And I picked up a copy. I really really liked it. It's a great album,
Yeah.
and saw that they were from Seattle. And so I reached out to Michael and I said, hey, I really like your album, and like, we're doing sort of different things, but in a similar sphere. And we should try and get together and do a show together sometime, or work together in some way. And he got back to me right away and he was like, yeah, I've checked your guys' stuff out. It's great, and definitely want to, do some things. And so we chat from time to time, and trying to work something out. And then when I was working on the second part of Voyage Destination, so just a quick little background on the project. We started recording it during COVID, and realized that it was going to be a double album, and it was going to take a really long time to finish
Yeah.
because again, families and working full time and things like that.
Sure.
And so decided to split it up into two, and we took the songs that were close to being finished and we polished them up and finished them and released that as a Voyage Destination Part 1 in 2022. And then we had about half an hour of music left over. I ended up writing Artemis with Hollis, and then Destination, the final song on the album, after that. And then we sort of put it all together, and then we had a full album. And so that came out in 2024. So after the release of the first album in 2022, I was chatting with Michael, and I was working on Artemis at the time. And I was struggling with it because
Uh-huh.
I'm a fine singer, but I'm not a great singer. And I felt like that song, one, I had actually originally written it with a different vocalist in mind, and it was slightly out of my range. So struggling to hit a few of the notes and get them to come through nicely. and I was also struggling with the performance aspect of it. I was, singing things, and the notes were fine, but it didn't have that sort of slightly theatrical quality that I felt like the song need. It's a 20-minute, almost 20-minute long song. It's a sort of dramatic science fiction story. It
Very.
needs a bit more of a theatrical presence, a bit more of a performance to the song rather than just singing the notes. And at the time, I was really struggling with that. Now there is a version, if you get the special edition through Bandcamp, you do get a version with my vocals, that I have done since then. I've been working a lot on taking lessons and performing and practicing and things, and I think I do an okay job now. But a couple of years ago, I was really struggling with it, so I sent it to Michael and I said, would you sing this for me? I think you have a great voice for it. I think it's right in your range." And I knew Michael could do that performative, performance aspect of it, and really bring character to the song rather than just singing the notes.
Yeah, you did.
And yeah, he did, and I think his performance is fantastic. I love it, and I'm very grateful that he took the time to do it. And yeah, so that's sort of the background of that.
All right. And we kind of zoomed past the 20th anniversary thing, but
Mhm.
you decided to bring this back out because you wanted to combine these because for years, like you said, they were separate. And
Yeah.
do you want to talk just a little bit about that?
Sure. Yeah. So when we released the first Voyage to Destination, we didn't press it on CD or vinyl or anything like that. We just released it digitally. And and my thought was, if it does decently, then when the second part comes out, we can do a double album. And so the second part came out as well. It did fairly well, and in terms of getting some good reviews and things like that.
Critic. Yeah.
And then realized, one, we had a lot of B-sides and additional material and other bits and pieces kicking around, and I wanted something to keep a little bit of momentum going. Try and have something out every 18 months or so that you sort of can build a little bit rather than going away for 3 or 4 years and coming back.
So very
um,
important. Yep.
and I wanted to release some versions of these songs with my vocals on them, as well as sort of we're doing another album, and I may sing everything on the next album, so it's sort of a little bit of a trial run for that. And then, yeah, it's the 20th anniversary of the band, so we realized that we went, okay, well, let's repackage, let's put them together like they were always supposed to be as a double album. Let's include these B-sides, some material that Hollis and I wrote for a theatrical production, a couple of old things that we've had kicking around and that might be of interest to people. Put that out as a special edition, and it the other reason for doing that as well is we've been working on the music video for the song Artemis for the past year. And it took a long time because it's a fully, I mean, it's the 20-minute long music video. It's fully animated. It was all done by one person. Like, that takes just a crazy amount of work.
Oh yeah.
And so we had the music video coming out. We want to promote that and get some attention to that as well. So yeah, so we had that. So we released the albums together with the additional material on March 6th. 2 weeks later, we released the Artemis music video, which I hope people check out, especially if you are sort of my vintage and you grew up in the late 80s and early 90s playing PC games, point and click adventure games. It's a music video very much inspired by early point and click adventure games. So
Yeah,
check
it
out the
is.
Artemis music video. And then we're doing these performances that we're going to record. We have a covers album that's going to be coming out in 6 weeks or so, hopefully. And then we're writing the next album, which probably won't come out in the 20th anniversary year, but it will be out at some point. So that's sort of our 20th anniversary plans.
All right. Since you mentioned a covers album, can you talk about who you're going to cover? Or?
Sure, yeah. So Skating Away on the Thin Ice of the New Day by Jethro Tull. It's
I
funny.
have a feeling.
Yeah. Do you know Dave Kurtzner's music?
Yes. I couldn't name a song, but I definitely remember the name.
Um, I'm a big fan of Dave's. He's a great musician, and he's also a great sort of technological innovator. He's one of the guys at IK Multimedia that's behind the Tonex pedals, and he's done a bunch of like reverb plugins that sample like Genesis's drum room at the farm and things like that. Really neat guy. And he was soliciting a little while back requests for what he should cover for a project of his. And I suggested Skating Away on Thin Ice, and yay. And he said, I'm not going to do that. I don't like Jethro Tull very much, but you do it. I said, okay, okay, Dave, I will. So we're going to do that song, but it's the goal for all of these songs that we're doing on the cover album is to really do different arrangements and present them in a different way. I don't like covers
Good.
when people just do a straight, do it
Yeah.
exactly like the original artist, because like, well, you might as well just listen to the original artist then. What are you bringing to this to make it worth listening to? So we've done quite a different arrangement of Skating Away on the Thin Ice of the Day. We're doing a couple of indie rock, sort of classic rock songs, and bringing a bit of sort of post rock and prog to them. We're doing an Antlers song. They're a really good indie folk rock
I've heard
band.
of them. Yeah.
We're doing a Platinum Blonde song from the 80s, so a real
Oh
Canadian
my
sort of
God.
hair metal classic rock song. We're doing a blend and a mashup of Genesis' The Cinema Show, which is another one of my favorite songs of all time,
Oh yeah.
with the Big Big Train song East Coast Racer. So that's sort of the big centerpiece track on the album. That's going to be like 15 minutes long. And I'm really thrilled with how that's come together. There's another blending sort of mashup longer song taking the post-rock band Mogwai, their song Mogwai Fear Satan,
Oh, okay.
um, and mixing that together with The Raven That Refused to Sing by
Oh
Steve
wow.
Wilson. And there's a Marius Duda from Riverside. He released a couple
Yeah.
of sort of folk rocky songs under his own name a few years ago that I really loved. So we're going to do one of those. Trying to think if there's anything else, if anything I'm forgetting. That's most of it. Phoebe Bridgers. We're doing a Phoebe Bridgers song as well.
And you think that'll be the end of this year or next
Oh
year?
no, that's going to be in like the end of May. I'm really
Oh,
hoping we'll
that
have that out
fast.
before the
Oh
June
my
shows.
goodness. Wow.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah. It's about 80% done.
Okay.
I have a few bits and pieces to fill in. We have one guest vocalist on this. I'm doing most of it, but we have one guest vocalist. I don't want to reveal it
No,
before
that's all
it's
right.
done, but waiting on her vocals, and we got to do some drum recording, and then the bow will be on it.
Well, definitely send that to me. I'd love
Yeah.
to review it for you. Um, let's see. And speaking of guests, you really you filled this thing full of some incredible guests. And Lars is the first one because I am a Wobbler fan. I
Yeah.
mean, to
Wobbler's
me,
amazing.
they have replaced Yes. I mean,
Yeah.
the new configuration of Yes, I haven't listened to it, but I just, without John, it's not the same for me, and it never will be. And I kind of am traditional that way with Marillion. It's fish or no fish, or no Marillion, I mean. But really, and I wrote in the he hasn't had a chance to read that 5-page review I wrote for him yet, and I dumped it like at midnight last night. So yeah, he hasn't had a chance. But in that review, I mentioned Lars Frederick and the inspiration of Naiad. Well, their album, I mean, the Wobbler song was Naiad Dreams, and when I heard that, I was like, "Oh my God, this is incredible!" And then I had to find out what a Naiad was. And on your album, you
Yeah.
have the Pool of the
Yeah.
Naiads.
Totally
So,
coincidence. Total
is it a
coincidence. Yeah.
coincidence, or
Yeah.
did you hear the Wobbler song and say, "I got to put something like that on this album"?
No, totally coincidental. I knew the Wobbler song. It was not what was on my mind when I was
Oh,
writing that
okay.
song. So it is totally coincidental. And then getting Lars in to do it, it was yeah. It's just a coincidence that we both have songs about naiads. So
Yeah.
yeah, but no, it's Lars is incredible. He's a phenomenal player, and he is a phenomenal engineer as well. He runs his own studio, and he does everything sort of the vintage way. There's the part of the reason those Wobbler albums are so evocative of like early '70s progressive rock is because they record them with era specific gear.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's super cool. And yeah, I mean Lars, all the guests, the first person that I roped into doing this was Nick DiVirgilio. And
Yes. That's
it
another
was
big
sort of
name.
peak of COVID. Nobody was touring. Everybody was kind of sitting around. And Nick doesn't use social media a whole lot when he's busy, but he wasn't busy. He was on social media quite a bit. And so I connected with him a little bit, chatted with him, and said, "Hey, would you be interested in drumming on this project?" And because I wasn't actually sure. So the band had been on hiatus for quite a long time. I had moved away and moved back, and then it was COVID. We just hadn't really played together. And I actually wasn't sure if Jesse, our drummer, was going to be down for doing more music. And so I reached out to Nick and I said, it might just be one song, might be the whole album, but would you be interested in doing this? And I sent him the demos, and he got back to me right away. He said, "Yeah, count me in." And he was very enthusiastic and supportive of the music, and that really made me sort of like, oh my god, now I have this like world class talent who's enthusiastic and wants to be involved. Like, I better get it together and make this as good as I possibly can, because I want to respect that he'll be involved and make it worth his time. But that also inspired me to reach out to some other people. I'm not. I can play the keyboards fine, but I'm not a like great improviser, organist, or anything like that. And I wanted that sort of classic Hammond organ
Yeah.
solo. And I thought, well, who better in the world to do that than Lars from Wobbler? So I emailed Lars, and he got back to me again, and he said, "Yeah, count me in. This sounds really good. It'll be lots of fun." He sent me like 7 different versions of the solo,
Oh, wow.
um, which was awesome. And Nick similarly, Nick sent me like 6 different versions of all the drums for Voyage, and the chromatic percussion parts and things. So I was able to sort of pick and choose it was so hard to go through, like, these are all great. How do I choose the one I like the most? And then, yeah, it reached out to Jim. And when I initially reached out to Jim from Caligula's Horse, he declined. He was dealing with some health things, and he had to say no. But I knew he was the right person to sing that song, and so I gave it a few months, and I reached out to him again, and I said, "You sure? I can't convince you." And he came back and said, "Yeah, okay, I'll do it." And
Good.
I think that when I got that track back, I was actually out on the boat, on my dad's boat, sailing around Quadra Island, off Campbell River
Yeah.
in northern Vancouver Island, when I received his vocal track back, and I had to like connect on data and download it.
What a place to
And
hear it. Yeah.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And I literally cried when I heard it the first time. I just was overwhelmed by how fantastic his performance was. Mariana Simkina again, all these people who were just kind of kicking around with a lot to do, and I just got them at the right time, because, like, who am I? Who's this, guy from Victoria, just sending this music out, and so it was a real honor and a privilege. Eric Gillette, doing the lead guitar and lead vocals on
Yeah.
Pull the Naiads, a phenomenal job. Eric wrote that great guitar line at the end of the song, that
Yeah.
the sort of soaring guitar line that ends the song, just a beautiful fit. And Yeah, Mariana, Jim, Lars, and Nick for the first album, and then the second album. I'm a huge Haken fan. I really wanted to do something with Ross Jennings, and we met on Cruise to the Edge in 2022. Had a couple nice chats, and I reached out to him after, and I said, "Hey, do you want to do this song?" And he said yes, and he did a wonderful job. And then he, when Haken were in Vancouver a couple of years ago, I was able to grab him before the show
Um,
and take him to my parents' place in North Van and record his part for the music video. He was
oh,
so
wow.
generous to agree to do that.
Yeah.
It was really fun. And then, yeah, Michael on Artemis, Kelly Nordstrom from Sound of Contact with Dave Kurtzner. Speaking of Dave, Kelly's now in Molecule with Simon Collins. He's actually my guitar teacher. He teaches guitar here at the Victoria Conservatory of Music. He came in, he did the bass for Artemis. Dennis Atlas, who I met on Cruise to the Edge 2022. He was filling in with Pattern Seeking Animals. Now he's the keyboard player for Toto. He's
Oh,
touring the
my
world
God.
with Toto, playing all these amazing shows. He's a great guy, really nice guy, amazing musician. He did the synth solo on Artemis. And then, there's lots of people who are not big prog names who really were very generous in lending their time. My friend Steph Boutet is a wonderful pianist and flautist in Quebec. She did a lot of the piano on the albums. Jeremy Tardif, he used to be in a great prog metal band called Marching Mind.
Okay.
He did the piano on Pool of the Naiads. Again, our friend Claire Coupland, she did a bunch of backing vocals. My wife Julia is the lead female
Yeah, you
vocalist in
got to get your
Artemis.
wife in there. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So
she did
Lane
a great
Longton, who's
job.
Hollis, our violinist sister, she's always played cello for us. She's always been very generous with her time. She does all the cello across both albums, and it's wonderful. Ryan Cole, he's the trumpet player with the Victoria Symphony. He's a friend, and he's been very generous with his time and recording all the trumpet parts, beautiful trumpet performances. So we have been very lucky and very privileged to work with so many great musicians, and very thankful that they are so generous with their time. I've said this a few times in interviews and things like that, but for a little while, being kind of on the outside of the prog world, looking in at the modern prog scene, and it really you'd see everybody sort of working together and playing together and touring together, and there's so much collaboration, and you think probably that means that people are good guys and good, and get along and are generous and things like that. But you never really know for sure until you encounter it
The
firsthand.
U.S. Yeah.
And really, the people in the modern prog scene, every single one of them I've had a chance to work with, everyone I've had a chance to meet and have a conversation with, to a man and woman, has been really lovely and generous and talented, and it's to get to participate a little bit in that world has been really, really wonderful.
And I'll tell you, it starts all the way back to the seminal bands. Like
Mm-hmm.
I tell this story all the time. I'll keep it real short though. But Steve Hackett, Steve Howe, when they were back in GTR,
Mm-hmm.
went to that show, and right after the show, they came out and they both, and I think it was Steve Howe that said, "Any questions?" And we were all dumb. Are you kidding me? You're going to answer any questions? I mean, yeah, just people think that these people sit on, you know, chairs that, I can't think of the right word, but thrones. And no, they're not. They're very down to earth people. They care about, who's listening to their music, and they want to talk to you. I want to go back to Lars real quick
Yeah.
because I've been talking about Jeff Martin. You probably know who Jeff Martin is from Tea Party
I know the Tea Party. I don't
from
know Jeff.
Canada. Okay, Jeff, if you ever get to see a Tea Party show, he probably doesn't do all of this. This was like early years, and so they were just kind of getting started, their first album. And it was, I think it was down in Seattle. They did a show, candlelight, absolutely no lights in the building,
Oh yeah,
candlelight. He had so
nice.
many candles on
Yeah,
that stage. I don't think you can do that anymore. Probably
you can do it
it's,
with LED candles now.
well, yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
Yeah. But these are real. And
yeah,
he would come out with all these Asian and Middle Eastern instruments, and he'd first of all explain them to you, and then he'd play them. And that's what Lars kind of is reminding me of now with these latest things he's doing on Facebook. He's playing all these different,
yeah,
Hammonds, not just Hammonds, but all sorts of synthesizers from the 70s and putting them up on Facebook. And
yeah.
thank you for that, Lars, if you're listening. I've interviewed him before,
Hmm.
and he wasn't doing this back then. I wish he had. I would have thanked him then.
Yeah.
But but
Also
yeah,
worth shouting out
anyone that
with Lars,
huh?
if you don't mind me interrupting. Just we've
No,
talked
yeah,
about
go
Wobbler, but
ahead.
just a quick shout out. His two solo albums are phenomenal. Chronicles of Father Robin stuff that he's done.
Oh,
He's not just a one trick pony. He's doing all kinds of amazing things. So yeah,
and the Chronicles of Christopher Robin. Yeah, I think
Father Robin.
Father
Chronicles of
Robin.
Father
That's right.
Robin. Yeah,
I kept
yeah.
doing that when I was doing the review. But yeah, but no, that is an excellent piece of work that
Yeah.
finally has seen the light of day, and
Hmm.
finally, people are having a chance to listen to. But yeah, yeah, absolutely excellent. And when they released the old Wobbler albums that I had never heard, they finally went back and did a reboot on the first three, I think it was.
Hmm.
If you haven't heard those, they are also
Yeah.
immaculate. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely. Lars is probably my favorite now. Other than, well, now wait a minute, there is one more. And you probably haven't heard of these guys, but they're back of me here. They're way up on top. Have you heard of Atomic Time?
No.
Yeah, a lot of people haven't.
Yeah.
But if you want to hear, and they don't like this, and I don't like even saying it because it's not Dark Side of the Moon, but it's the closest thing I've heard to, and it's not a copy of Dark Side of the Moon at all, but it has the power, the symphonic power, I think, of Dark Side of the Moon. Atomic Time Subdue.
Oh,
Sub sounds. I don't know why I keep saying subdue.
yeah.
Sub sounds. It was my album of the year last year.
Oh, okay. I'll have to check that out.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
The son, it's a father and son team. The son is challenging Lars at his age. I mean, the son is like 20, and his he's just unbelievable. And please give that album, go to
Yeah.
YouTube. And my favorite by far is Voice of God. But if you listen to that whole thing, I mean, it gives me the chills. It gives me the chills of my favorite song of all time, Supper's Ready. It's not Supper's Ready. Nothing could be Supper's Ready,
Yeah.
but it's pretty damn
Mhm.
spectacular. And they have one of the best female vocalists that brings back memories of the Great Gig in the Sky.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
just, yeah, it's a treat. I'm telling
Yeah.
you. And I bumped into them. I think they were advertising on Facebook. And I said, hey, send me album to me. And oh my God, the beginning of the album is like a nighttime walk through the jungles. They're from Brazil. The
Oh, interesting.
nighttime,
Okay.
it's like a
Yeah.
nighttime walk through the Amazon. And
Hmm.
it's just, I would love to get them together with you guys and do a show. It would, oh my
Yeah.
God, what a
Yeah.
show.
Well, I'll have to
The
check that out.
problem is it'd be a 4 or 5 hour show because you both
Yeah.
make a
Well, it
long, they make long
costs
songs
20
too.
grand to put that show together because you got to get us down then from Brazil. You got to get the visas and yeah.
Well, yeah, and
Yeah.
they'd have to come up or we'd have to go
Yeah.
down.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, that's what
it's tough.
festivals are so great for is
Definitely.
maybe get a chance to do that kind of thing.
Yeah, I hope they get invited to the you've been talking about those cruises and
Yeah.
something like that because
Yeah.
more people have to hear them.
Yeah.
Okay, this we could go all day, so I do that. Let's talk about let's see, Sea of Vapors,
Yeah.
beautiful, and
Hmm.
I don't remember seeing, but I could be wrong
Hmm.
flute credits. I mean, there's flute
Oh, it's
all
me.
over
Yeah.
this album, but
Yeah.
I think you mentioned somebody that did those.
It's me. I
Oh,
love
you
those.
did it.
Yeah.
Okay. And that while we're on that subject,
Hmm.
you have on the PR sheet that you're a singer, and I'm like,
Hmm.
well, which of these songs did he sing?
Yeah.
Because you have so many fantastic guest singers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did well, go ahead.
Oh, sure. So, the I don't sing anything. Well, I sing one little tiny bit of "Pool the Naiads." There's the baritone part that comes after the sort of Hawkett thing.
Okay.
So I sing backing vocals throughout it, but that's the only lead bit I sing on the first album is just that one little bit. On the second album, I sing a couple songs. I sing "Bury Me at Sea,"
Oh,
and I
okay. That's
sing
you.
what was it, Lake of Luxury. I get the names confused because I changed all the names like shortly before pressing the
Oh,
album.
okay.
So, and they're all named after oceans on the moon. So,
Oh, okay.
I think it's Lake of Luxury is Hollis's song. Lake of Dreams, I think the uh, Here go another season. Let no one ask us what's the reason. That song, I sing that song.
Okay.
And then yeah, if you get the special edition with the bonus disc, it's all me on Pool the Naiads and Artemis and Flew the Coop.
And you did send that to me, but I was like, I mean, I've already.
It's a lot of material to get through.
Thank you.
It's three full albums of
And
material if you get the special edition. So yeah,
and
it's
maybe
incredibly challenging.
I will go back and I will
Yeah,
do something on that because he did. He sent me uh, probably another 10, 15. I can't remember how many tracks
yeah.
that
There's about
were
15
not on
bonus
the album.
tracks. Yeah,
different versions and things like
Yeah,
that. And one of these days, I will go back and put something together for you because I
yeah.
want to hear them.
Well, if people
But
are interested in knowing what's on the bonus disc,
yeah,
I'll give you a quick rundown. So
yeah,
there's
go ahead.
three songs that had guest vocalists that I have my lead vocals on: Pool of the Naiads, Artemis, and Flew the Coop. I didn't do my own lead vocal on Voyage because Jim's is just so perfect. I couldn't,
Yeah,
I just couldn't replace it.
couldn't compete.
Um, and so there's that. There's a old version of I think it's Lake of Luxury again. I get the names mixed up, but the we recorded that song originally in a very different arrangement for our second album, and we cut it at the last minute because we felt it just wasn't quite coming together. And then I rearranged it for this project, but the original version is on there. And then there's a live version of Bury Me at Sea with our friend Claire, who I've mentioned a couple times, singing it with us. And there's going to be a music video for that coming out in the next couple of weeks as well, of just doing a live off the floor recording of it with Claire. And then there are, I think, 8 songs, 8 short pieces of music that Hollis and I wrote for my friend Alistair is a theater director, and he did an adaptation of a very old play called The Witch of Edmonton.
Huh?
And so we did some compositions and soundscapes and things like that for that play, and that's sort of the second half of the recording of the bonus disc, is all of those recordings that Hollis and I did.
Definitely, yeah, I'll have to put something together in time. Sea of Vapors. I jumped on it and then left it. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Yeah, Sea of Vapors was the first new piece that was written for the Voyage Destination project when we sort of came back together. And it was written very much in the same way that a lot of the stuff on our second album was written, where I had um, just at that guitar line, that thing, and I brought it to Ben and Anthony when they were still in the band, and Hollis, and we just sat down and jammed on it. And Ben had some lovely ideas for sort of complementary guitar parts, and then Hollis, he can just take something like that and improvise over it, and it's so beautiful. And so we basically recorded it that way. I sort of decided on the structure of the song, and I recorded my guitars, and then I sent it to Ben, and Ben recorded his guitars, and I sent it to Anthony, and Anthony did his bass. And then once we had that sort of bed, I took my flute, and Hollis took his violin, and we just improvised on top of it. And that's what the song is. And Hollis is such a good improviser, and just such a beautiful player. Like he's so lyrical, and his playing just soars, and it just floats across that bed of backing tracks. And yeah, and so that's how it came together.
All right, Lantern Season.
Mm.
I did a Google search and I hope I got it right. Canada celebrates this time of year. Does it have anything to do? You're going to tell me no.
No,
Son of a gun. But
no,
it
sorry.
sounded beautiful. It sounded beautiful when I read it.
Yeah,
Vancouver, Toronto,
yeah,
it's all over the country basically.
yeah.
But this
No,
has
it's not
nothing to
related
do.
to that at all.
Uh,
No, so it's actually related to an old web comic called Dresden Kodak.
oh, okay.
He did a comic years ago called Lantern Season, and it was about this festival where these ghosts are stealing people's memories, and it's a really lovely story. And we got permission from Aaron, who drew the comic, to use the comic panels for our music video. So if you go to our
Oh,
YouTube page
yeah.
and you listen to the song, it just plays the panels of the comic to tell the story of the Lantern Season story. That's
Wow.
actually one of the oldest
I
songs
didn't.
that's on the recording. We wrote it. It was about, this is sort of like the Genesis trio way of writing songs, was how this song came together. We got together, we jammed for 10 or 15 minutes and recorded the whole thing. And I took all the ideas from that I really liked and condensed it down into a 5-minute song, and actually arranged it out and sort of wrote it out. And then that's what it was. And we did a version on an EP that we did in 2012 called the Common Things EP. And I was never 100% satisfied with how it sounded. I didn't really like my lead guitar performance. And so, but I really like that piece of music, and I really like playing it live, especially. And so I wanted to revisit it and do a version I was more happy with. And so that's how it ended up on the album.
All right. Voyage is a huge, beautiful song.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it concludes the first part. I hope I got those in the right order. It
Yeah,
looked like that was the
yeah.
first
It is the conclusion of
album.
the first
Okay.
part. Yeah, yeah. And this was an interesting undertaking. So there were a couple of bits of this that were kicking around for a while. The stuff in the middle, the sort of build. A couple of people compared it with um, uh, Starless by King Crimson. That sort of repetitive build. I actually had
Mhm.
Magma in mind when I was arranging it, but
Yeah.
and so that was around, and then there's a 15/8 part that follows it that Hollis had written, and we played around with it for a long time. And then the sort of back half of the song, the really miserable, depressing part, is came out of some jams that Hollis and I did with our friend Joshua. And Joshua was a really fantastic musician, and he had this song. Um, and he came over to my place years ago, and he started playing this song, and Hollis and I started playing over it, and then Joshua just kind of stopped and let Hollis and I go for like 10 minutes. And that whole instrumental section that's just the tremolo guitar and violin, that's basically just, I transcribed all of that improv, and I cut it up and condensed it a little bit and made it a little bit tighter. But that's basically just that session. And it was such a magical um, bit of improv. Sometimes you improv and things just meander, and sometimes you just click and something really beautiful happens. And that was one of those times. And
It.
sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
And so Joshua very kindly gave us permission to use the his melody and his sort of structure of that Jim is singing there. The da, da, da,
Yeah.
da, 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 da. It was different lyrics. I wrote new lyrics for it, but that was his tune. And then the end piano part is a different thing that Hollis had kicking around, and so I took all of these kind of disparate elements and tried to tie them together. And I wanted to do something that kind of inverted your expectation for an epic. So many epics follow the same kind of ebb and flow. And for good reason. Like I think
Yeah.
some people have. I've seen some criticisms of Voyage, and I understand where people are coming from. That kind of that like it's such a downer on the ending, and it goes on for a
Mm.
while, and it doesn't have that big climax at the end that you kind of expect from epics. That
Yeah.
I think Artemis and Pool of the Naiads kind of follow that format a little bit more. They have these big climaxes at the end, and Voyage doesn't. Voyage just dies, and intentionally, and like that's the story.
Point. Yeah.
People in the story die,
Yeah.
and so it was an interesting, trying to put something together and make it work in a way that inverted the way an epic typically goes was an interesting challenge. And then lyrically, its song was a really interesting challenge as well. It was very inspired by Big Big Train. Big Big Train do lots of songs about sort of historical fiction
Yeah.
or historical events and things like that. And I remember watching, and I've told this story before, but David and Greg from Big Big Train giving an interview in the lead up to the release of Grand Tour 7 or 8 years ago, and they were talking about doing research for writing the lyrics for Grand Tour, and research into sort of historical things and these interesting things that would happen to people when they would do these tours of Europe, and like what they actually did and why they did it, and I just it completely changed my perspective on how to write a lyric and what you could do in a rock lyric. It's like, oh, you can do that. I had no idea you could do that.
Yeah.
And so Voyage was sort of my drawing inspiration from that, and in sort of looking at Big Big Train writes all these songs about English folklore and English history and things like
Yeah.
that, and I thought, well, what's an interesting Canadian twist I could put on that, and what's an interesting story to tell, and there was
There's a
the
lot.
Vikings came over um, from Scandinavia in about 1100 AD and settled in Newfoundland, and then abandoned the colony after about 30 years, I think, and nobody really knows why. So I thought, well, that's an interesting story. That's interesting fodder for sort of some speculative fiction that's based on a historical event, and so that's where that came from.
All right, and the guitar section took me back to, I don't know if you ever heard Steve Hackett's Under a Mediterranean Sky album.
Yeah, I love that album. Yeah,
It just brought that back, and
oh yeah, I hadn't
yeah,
considered that comparison, but that's a flattering one. I really like that album.
definitely. Prelude,
Hmm.
wonderful opening for the second album. Uh, Wish it was longer. We all do, and you probably did too.
It's
But
one of
it's
Hollis's, so
perfect.
yeah,
It's just really
yeah,
good. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Hollis is very good at writing those sort of short piano-driven little pieces that just kind of perk your interest, and then they're gone. And yeah, great way to start. That's another one he had kicking around for a long time, and these albums were kind of a clearinghouse for all these ideas that we'd accumulated over a decade. And now we're all out of ideas, and so the next one we have to write everything from scratch, which is going to be an
Starting,
interesting
yeah, at the
challenge. But
beginning. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, no, that was one that Hollis had kicking around for a while, and I always really liked it, and so we dragged it up and dusted it off and cleaned it up, and yeah.
And then Breaking and Entering.
Mm-hmm.
When I first saw and I put that in the review, it has nothing to do with it, but when I first saw that, it reminded me of robbery, assault, and battery, and I was like,
Oh yeah.
I wonder if it'll be like that, but no, not at all.
No,
Uh,
the reason it's called breaking and entering is because it's only two chords. It's just B and E.
oh, okay.
It's B and E, so breaking and entering. Um, yeah, and it's similar to Lantern Season. It was another one where we were just me and Hollis and Ben and Anthony back in the day were just jamming um, and came up. It played for 7 or 8 minutes long, and then we cut that down to 4.5 or 5 minutes, the best ideas, and sort of cleaned it up and arranged it in a new way. And so yeah, another one of those sort of Genesis trio style writing sessions that gave birth to that one.
It's I wrote down it's perfect music. If you have nice weather, sitting in the inner harbor walls of Victoria's waterfront and watching the pickle boats perform a synchronized water ballet.
Yeah.
Have you seen that?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean these boats actually do ballet
Hmm.
in the bay in the harbor, inner harbor,
Yeah.
and it is one of the, and they usually played classical music if I remember correctly,
Hmm. Yeah.
but it's just, yeah, until you've seen it, you've never experienced anything like that, and it's one of the big things, or one of the things that people talk about when they go to Victoria.
Hmm.
So that's cool. You saw that. Um, and then the next one is Seething Bay, and I was like,
Hmm.
I've never seen the. Although I always go in the summertime, but in the summertime it's beautiful on the Inner Harbor. But I'm sure in the winter it probably does become a seething bay.
Well, again,
Was
it's
that
actually
what
named after one
inspired
of the
it, or?
formations on the moon.
Oh,
All the
okay,
instrumental tracks,
nothing to
except for
do
breaking and
with.
entering, are named
That's
after
right.
the
You did
oceans and the
say
things
that,
like that on the
yeah.
moon. Yeah.
So
Um,
I got
yeah.
these wrong, but yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead.
well, that's okay. It's fun to hear how people sort of interpret things and what they take from it, because it's once you put it out there, people are going to bring their own things to it. So
Yeah.
that's great. Yeah, and again, this is one of Hollis's. This is one that we had kicking around for a little while. I did a little tweaking of the arrangement when we were sort of getting it ready to record, but it's 95% Hollis's piece of music. And I've always really liked it. We did a really fun music video for this one. If anybody wants to check it out, our friend Karen stars in this music video as sort of a wraith that comes out of the ocean, and very inspired by like B sort of 50s B horror movies.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
and it was a lot of fun to make. And she was a real trooper because we filmed it in September in the ocean in Canada. It's not it's not the warmest.
Oh, yeah.
Uh, so yeah, yeah, it was loads of fun. It's a short one too. It's unusual for us, and it's like 3.5 minutes long. So if you want to watch a short Versa music video, check out the Seething Bay. It's lots of fun.
And we zoomed through Artemis so fast.
Hmm.
But what do you think about what's going on up on the moon right
Oh yeah,
now? I
coincidental
mean,
again.
what a
You know,
coincidence that
yeah.
you happen to release this and boom.
Well, and actually, when we were getting this ready for release, it was pointed out that the music that the it was actually originally supposed to launch on March 6th, the same day as the album,
No kidding.
which was not intentional, but would have been a very nice coincidence.
It would have been
And
nice. Yeah.
unfortunately, it got delayed a little bit. But yeah, it's very cool. I've always had an interest in science and science fiction and things like that, and so it's fun to see people returning to the moon for the first time in my lifetime. And I think the last trip to the moon was like 78 or 79, and I was born in 83, so it's never happened in my lifetime.
Yeah, we watched it in kindergarten or whatever it
Yeah,
was at that time,
yeah,
and it was unbelievable. And
yeah,
but now we have sophisticated cameras and technology, and some of the views that they've been sending back have just been
yeah,
spectacular. And
yeah. It's
I
cool.
know they're just getting started, and they haven't even been around the dark side yet. That's going to
Hmm.
be unbelievable. I can't wait for that. But yeah, um, yeah, it's wonderful how that sort of worked out, or
Yeah.
blew the coop.
Hmm. Yeah, this is another
You
one that's been
mentioned
kicking around for a
Ross. Yeah.
while. And there's a different version of this on our 2012 EP that doesn't have all the kind of proggy elements. It's just 6/8 all the way through, and again, I was never super satisfied with that version from that EP, and I had the idea of sort of dropping the beats every other bar in the build and into the climax to give it more of a proggy feel, so it's shifting back and forth between 12/8 and 11/8 during the instrumental build and into the climax. Um, and then our drummer Jesse, he doesn't write a whole lot, but he always has really good ideas for arrangements. And he came in and he said, "Well, change up the chord progression at the end. Do this chord progression instead over the same melody," and it worked. And it just kind of pushes it forward to another level. I think it was a great suggestion. And then yeah, Ross came in and sang on it. Um, and it's been our most successful music video. It's got over 100,000 views, I think, now on YouTube, which is awesome. And again, I tend to make all the music videos other than the animated ones. So I made this one with our friend Lindsay, just up in the forest around Squamish,
Okay.
which was lots of fun. Yeah, so
And one of the things that I comment on a lot in the review is the fact that yes, you played progressive, but you do something else that progressive bands used to do. You got trumpet in there, you got violin, you've got things that people don't usually hear on a modern prog album. It's like they threw all that stuff out. They forgot that Pink Floyd used to have sax on their horns, and for a time during the 80s, 90s, you never had any of that stuff. You're bringing it back, and thank God you're doing
yeah.
it. Um, be it flute, all these things that should always be in there in the mix. And thank you for doing that. It makes the album so much more dynamic instead of doing orchestrations and things like that. So, and you can tell you guys are pros when you're using regular instruments and not AI or any other format. So thank you. And hopefully
Well,
more people thank you
yeah.
for,
Well, again, another shout out to Big Big Train. They've been doing that for years.
yeah,
They have beautiful orchestrations and strings and horn parts and things like that in their music, and I always love that. Like I said, Hollis, very much classical background. I grew up playing classical flute as well. I didn't go as far with it as Hollis has, but I've always loved classical music, and had an interest in arranging. And then, we're very privileged. I think some bands, there's a budget consideration because you got to pay
yeah,
artists to come and play for you. And fortunately, we've got some good friends who are incredible musicians and work for us on the cheap.
that's good.
That's a real privilege to have. And it's funny, I did an interview with Dean Wolf, the prog dog, a month and a half ago, and I pointed out to Dean that other than that synthesizer solo on Artemis, there's no synths on these albums.
There's not too
Most of the
much. Yeah.
places where prog bands would tend
Piano.
to use a synthesizer for a lead part, my approach has always been we have Hollis. Just
Yeah.
get Hollis to play it, or I'll do it on the flute, or and then I, sort of also coming from that indie rock background as well. Bands like the Decemberists, who I really love, or Sufjan Stevens. Those artists, they do a lot of orchestrations with horns and strings and things like that. And so I've always taken that approach of like, let's give it that kind of. I love that kind of lush organic feel that you get with real brass and real strings and real woodwinds. And fortunately, we have real string and woodwind players in the band. We used to have a trumpet player full time in the band, Michelle. She's hasn't been playing with us since we reformed, but we've always had that element to our sound as well.
But just the piano too. There's a few of these songs that are just solid piano pieces that just you don't hear that as much anymore. I mean, yes, it's always in the background. You got the guitars or whatever playing over it, but you give it, the central stage that it deserves, and I
Oh, thank
appreciate
you.
that. Flew the Coop. You want to talk about that one?
We just talked about that one.
All right. So how about Lake of Luxury? There's
uh,
two lakes, or no, I
yes,
guess
I got to
there's a
remember which
couple
one
of
is
lakes
which.
here.
Let me look at the album in front of me here. I think I've got them in the right order. Yeah, okay. Lake of Luxury is another of Hollis's. So this one Hollis had written for our 2010 album Decline and Fall, and we recorded it, and it wasn't quite right. There was something about it that just wasn't working. It's perfectly fine, and we included it as a B side because like I think it's listenable. It's just not something I would want to put front and center on an album. But then I hadn't, and it stuck with me for a long time because I really like his playing, and I really like the melody. The key melody to the song is really strong. And so then I kind of, again, sometimes if something's not working, mess with the time signature,
Yeah,
and it turns into something very different. And that's
very
what we did
good.
with this one. Is we messed around with the time signatures a little bit, threw a couple of crunchy, sort of little bit djent influence like metal guitar
Yeah.
underneath that flowing violin part, and I think it just took it to that. It gave it that extra little something that it was missing. And so, I love Hollis's performance. His violin playing really beautiful on this song.
Bury me at sea. Yep,
Yeah.
I'm with you on that. I hope that that's my future, but yeah,
Yeah.
no hurry. I'm just saying.
Yeah, well, exactly. Yeah, and I don't
But yeah.
really tend to write autobiographical stuff. I like writing stories more than autobiography. But my grandfather was buried at sea. My family has a long and deep connection with the coast, with West Coast. My grandfather ran a tugboat company and ran boats all up and down the coast, and my
Oh
uncle did
wow.
as well, and my father did as well, and my aunt was a bookkeeper and manager for a tugboat company, um, and I grew up in Campbell River, which is a sort of fishing
Oh yeah.
community, and always out on the water with my dad on his tugs and things like that.
Now
And
you're not going to tell me there's no grizzlies up there
In
because I've
Campbell River,
heard, huh?
no,
Near
black
Campbell
bears only.
River.
No,
You're
black bears
kidding.
only.
Wow.
Um,
All right.
yeah. If you go across to the mainland, you go to Powell River. There are grizzlies over there,
Okay.
but not in Campbell River.
Okay.
Yeah. So that and that's informed a lot of the music on our albums. Is growing up on the coast and on the water and spending a lot of time on the water, and I moved away for a few years to the interior, and I had to come back.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and this is again a song that kind of kicked around for a while, um, and um, and I tried arranging it a few different ways before I settled on the one that's on the album, and yeah, I mean it's one of those. I think of it as sort of like a Wondering Aloud kind of song.
Yeah.
I always love those little acoustic interludes where you'd get on those great Jethro Tull albums, Aqualung or Minstrel in the Gallery, or songs from the Wood. You get these big like 9 minute heavy rock and prog songs,
Yeah.
and then you get a little 2 minute just Ian and his acoustic guitar and maybe a string section and a really beautiful tune. And that was my goal with this song is having a song like that. It's just 2.5 minutes long. It's just kind of an acoustic thing. It's me and my guitar um, and some strings and horns and you know try and achieve something similar to those other Jethro Tull albums.
And for those of you that don't know what we've been talking about by Campbell River and all that, this area that we live in, we are just so fortunate to be here. You got the Gulf Islands, you got the San Juan Islands, you got Vancouver Island. There's just so many. different places you can go. And every time you go to one of these places like Nanaimo, I never expected what we saw. And driving up and down the coast of Vancouver Island, you just it's all different. Yeah, everyone thinks it's all going to be just trees and mountains, but no, every piece of it is absolutely different. And yeah, this should be well, maybe we don't want it to be a destination for everyone because then this place is going to be completely overpopulated. But it
Yeah, well,
really,
it's why housing prices are so expensive here.
well,
People
yeah,
want to live here.
Victoria and Vancouver, and it's
Yeah.
growing here in Bellingham too.
Mhm.
All right, Lake of Dreams. Now let's. I took a shot with this, and
Mhm.
lately the guesses have not been going too well. So I'm gonna throw this one out there and see if um, this works, but probably won't. Lake of Dreams, and I think you already said it. Has something to do with the moon, but I didn't realize all those connections. So I went out there and started looking for lakes in the Victoria area. And the one that seemed the most intriguing was, and I hope I'm saying it right, Thetis Lake,
Oh yeah, yeah,
and
yeah. Thetis Lake is beautiful.
Anastasia's Island. It has a little island on it,
Yeah.
and it looked in the middle, and it looked like this has got to be some kind of a lake of dreams. But you're probably going to tell me no. But go ahead.
No, no,
No,
that's a good guess. Thetis Lake is beautiful. It's a lovely
and it
place to
looks
visit, and
mysterious.
it does, yeah, yeah. And I remember being a kid and going up to the camp out there and spending a week there, and you go swim out to the island and things like that. It was great. It's a really beautiful spot, but no, it's again named after a lake on the moon.
Okay.
And I picked Lake of Dreams because lyrically the song is about not being able to drag yourself out of bed in the morning.
Oh,
Um, and
okay.
so I thought, when I at least tried to tie the lakes on the moon to something affiliated with the song,
Connected.
or a tone of the song or something like that. And so yeah, it's yeah, it's just a song about not wanting to get up in the morning.
How do you get out to that lake? The island, Anastasia's Island.
Oh, you can swim or you can row a boat or whatever.
Okay, I mean they don't.
Yeah.
I mean, from the pictures, it looked big, like you need a ferry or something, but no.
No, 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 not the island in Thetis Lake.
Okay,
No, no, you can swim there. It's not, yeah, or just take a little rowboat or something. Yeah. Um,
okay.
it's not that Thetis Lake is not an enormous lake, but it
It's
is lovely.
interconnected too. There's a
Mhm.
upper and then the regular
Yeah,
lake, and
yeah.
it didn't. They said it was connected, but from the Google map, I didn't see where they were connected. But
Hmm.
it looks like a place you. It's on my list now to go and take a look at
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
But
yeah. No, that little island. Those there's a couple little islands. There's Theobald Island and
yeah,
Anastasius Island. But yeah, no, they're like 150 feet from shore.
okay.
They're not. Yeah, they're not far.
All right, Ocean of Storms.
Yeah, this is one that dates back a few years as well, and was just sort of oh, I haven't written a post rock song in a while, so let's write a post rock song. And there's not a whole lot really more to it than that. I just I really love post rock music. Sort of again Mogwai, Godspeed You Black Emperor, Explosions in the Sky, God is an Astronaut, like all those kinds of bands, and that was our roots and how we started. And I hadn't written a song like that in a little while, and so I just sat down with a guitar and started playing around with some riffs, and this song is a lot trickier than it sounds. It sounds very straightforward, but the way that the guitar pattern sort of repeats, it doesn't line up with anything. So it's actually very difficult to play live.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's I like it. I was happy with how it turned out. But again, it's kind of a sort of more traditional post rock song, a throwback to the early days of the band.
Mare Lamentorum. And when you go on Google, you bump into fantasy Final Fantasy, and that
Oh, interesting.
obviously is not a
Yeah.
match. But
Mm, no,
go
again,
ahead
it's
and
just it's a
another moon
geological
on, I mean,
formation on the
another
moon.
sea on the
Yeah.
moon.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Sea of Laments. Um, Mara Lamentorum. Yeah, this was a uh, one that I just worked on with Hollis. I improvised this sort of piano part, and I liked how it sounded, and so I sort of wrote it out, and then I brought it to Hollis, and Hollis layered some stuff on top, and again, it's trying to have kind of those short acoustic kind of palette cleansers between the heavier or the bigger stuff. This is very different from this is not a Jethro Tull kind of song at all.
Yeah.
It's a piano and strings piece, and again, but yeah, just kind of a short, simple. Come up with a thing on the piano, and then have your buddy who's amazing at violin play over top of it, and see what you get.
Telling you, the strings and violin on this album are just wonderful, wonderful to
Oh, I think
hear.
there's some bass flute on that song too, which was fun to play. It's
Yeah.
very tiring to play bass flute. Yeah, I don't know how. I see women playing bass flute sometimes, and I just go, I don't know how you don't pass out. Like the amount of lung capacity that you need to keep the air going through a bass flute is substantial.
And what he's talking about, these things are like stand on the ground, and they're about as tall as you.
Well,
Yeah.
that's a contrabass flute.
Oh,
I've
okay.
never played one of those. A bass
I
flute is looks so a normal flute is about an inch in diameter, and a bass flute is about 2.5 inches in
oh, okay.
diameter, and it curves around because it has to be quite a bit longer. So it's about this big with a curved mouthpiece, and you play it out here, and it's big and fat. But when you're blowing air through a 1 inch pipe, which is basically what a flute is, you don't need a whole lot of air to sustain the tone. But when you are blowing through a pipe that's that big,
Yeah.
you need to move a lot more air. And yeah, there's a woman who I follow her on Instagram. Her name escapes me right now, but she's a professional flute player, and she plays the contrabass flute, which is the huge one. And I don't even know how you'd get a sound out of that thing. I'd pass out
Oh,
within
she
30 seconds
does.
trying to play it.
She does.
Yeah,
If
yeah,
it's the same, if it's the same lady I'm talking about,
yeah.
I've interviewed her and
Oh, really?
did a
Oh, neat.
review,
Yeah.
and she's doing something new that I can't
Mm.
tell you everything about it, but
Oh, well, that's
I
exciting.
got to look up her name here real quick because I've been deep in all this,
Yeah.
but I remember the first name I think is Diana,
Hmm.
and just for one reason or another, can't remember her last name. But oh my God, if you ever go to her site, once I get her name here, um, she plays some things, and she's a little tiny lady, and
Mm.
you're like, how do you do this? But she does a fantastic job, and I'm gonna find her name here shortly, but it's not popping up. But just yeah, amazing, and she's doing this for a movie that's coming up, and yeah, it finally she's getting the recognition she deserves. Oh, Daniela Mars, there we are.
Mm. Hmm. Yeah.
Does that sound like the same
That's who
name?
I'm. Yeah. Yeah. I follow her on Instagram. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, she is amazing. And yeah, if you wanted to put her on your album next time,
Yeah.
just let me know. I have talked to her, and going to be working with her. I mean, not working with her, but reviewing one of her upcoming albums. And
Mm.
yeah, she's just a very nice person too.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, she plays, and if you look at her videos or YouTubes, it'll astonish you. Yeah.
Yeah. No, she's
Uh,
amazing. Definitely check her out if people watching don't know her.
yeah. Okay, we talked a lot about Artemis. Is there anything else you want to mention?
Um. Yeah, no, I don't think so. We've talked about it. Again, it's we've got contributions from Michael, from Kelly, from Dennis, from Steph. So many people contributed to the song. The only thing I'll say about it is just touching again on the cruise because it came up. We went on our first cruise to the Edge, my wife and I, in 2022, and it was just an incredible experience. And it was so inspiring that Hollis and I had been kicking around a couple of pieces short bits and melodies and ideas and things. We didn't know what to do with them. And as soon as I got back from Cruise to the Edge, I went, I know what I'm doing. And I wrote the whole like 18-minute piece in about 2 weeks. So it's just like I'm so inspired. It was the first time I'd ever seen Moon Safari. Those guys are incredible. They
Yeah.
were such an inspiration. I got to see Martin Barr and his band playing Thick as a Brick. I'm sitting there watching Thick as a Brick, and Alan Parsons came and sat right next to me to watch Martin Barr play Thick as a Brick. I'm like, this is one of the
Yeah.
most surreal experiences of my entire life. Like,
Yeah.
um, so yeah, it was that inspired sort of. We, like I say, Hollis and I had been kicking around a bunch of little bits and pieces of ideas, and that really galvanized things in my head, and and that's how that song sort of came together.
One of these days we're going to get on one of those cruises because yeah, I want to.
Definitely, it's a fantastic experience. I can't recommend it enough. It's everybody, like I was saying about the artists, everybody being so lovely and supportive and positive. It's I had a fear when we were planning the first cruise, because we all know the sort of the miserable old prog fan cliche of everything sucks. Everything's terrible. Genesis hasn't done anything good since Peter Gabriel left, and like that kind of all music now is
Attitude.
terrible. Why doesn't everybody just listen to music that I liked when I was a
Yeah.
kid? And I was afraid that it was going to be a lot of people like that on the cruise, and it was not.
Yeah.
Everybody, the artists are amazing. The artists are great, and you get a lot of time to if you want to have a chat with somebody, and you'll have an opportunity. It's awesome. But then also, all the people sailing are there because they really, really love this kind of music. Um, and every conversation you have with somebody, they say, "Oh, did you see this band? Oh, have you heard of them before?" No, I've never heard. That happened with Moon Safari with us. Like 3 people the first day or two we were on the cruise said, "Have you heard Moon Safari?" We said, "No, we haven't listened to Moon Safari." They don't miss Moon Safari. They were so good. And we saw them, and they blew us away. They were so good. And then so the next time we went on the cruise, it was us saying to people, "Have you seen Moon Safari?" Like they're
Yeah.
so good. And it's
You're
just a lot of
advising.
that.
Yeah.
It's really a positive. It's very expensive. It doesn't last long enough. Everybody wants it to go on for more days, but um, if you can afford it, if it's in your means to go, because it's really an experience unlike anything else.
To be able to see all those people at once. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
to see them all at once, to be around so many like-minded people who really love music, to get a chance
It's
to meet the
similar. Yeah.
artists. Yeah, and it's just
Similar.
non. You get up at
Similar
10 o'clock
interest.
in the morning. The show started at 11. You go nonstop to 11 o'clock at night, and then you go have a drink in the bar with Neil Morse or
Yeah. Yeah.
Jim from Caligula's Horse, or a couple of the guys from Moon Safari, or like whoever happens to be there. Like it's amazing.
Yeah. We're gonna do it. We have to. All right, and then Destination is
Yeah.
the closer. Um, Fantastic song.
The most
You want
indulgent thing I've ever written.
in what way?
Oh, the whole song is just references to previous music.
Oh,
Um, and so I actually had a little contest on our social media when it first came out to see who could catch all the references, because there's little musical allusions to all of our sort of previous songs, to different songs from the Voyage of Destination albums, songs from our first two albums. And I wrote it. It was the last thing to be written for the album. I realized we had a song called Voyage. We didn't have a song called Destination on this two-part Voyage of Destination, so I thought we should have an album or a song called Destination. Um, and I wanted something that felt like um, these albums have a lot of contributions, writing contributions, and a few playing contributions from old members of the band who aren't with the band anymore. Ben and Anthony in particular, who are still great friends. They have careers and kids, and they just don't have the time to do it anymore. Um, and there's been kind of a change in musical direction and change in personnel, and so I wanted to have kind of a capper on this album that sort of summarized where the band had been and who the band had been over the past 18 or 19 years prior to
yeah.
this coming out, and then say, and now we're off
On a
something
new
new.
voyage. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. The next thing will be different.
All right. You've talked a lot about some of those things. Can you sort of point us in a direction of how that new album is going to be? And what are you looking at? 28, 27,
27,
or
hopefully.
okay,
27, hopefully.
that's pretty good.
Have a child on the way. So
Oh,
we'll
well,
see.
congratulations.
Thank
Yeah,
you, thank you. And I
congratulations.
don't, it's very hard to predict how that is going
Oh,
to
yeah,
affect things.
it will.
Um, I
Trust
know it
me.
will. I
Now,
know it
do
will.
you have any kids?
No, first child.
Okay. Um,
Yeah,
Tell your wife to make sure she gets a lot of sleep.
yeah, yeah,
Well, and you
uh,
too.
yeah.
But yeah, that was the first. We have a 26-year-old, and believe it or not, his name is Matthew.
Oh,
Bringing in a coincidence,
yeah,
but yeah, the first thing that hits you is the loss of sleep,
yeah, yeah,
and it hits hard usually,
yeah,
but you get used to it, and then you learn how to get through it. But yeah,
yeah. So my goal is to try and have the album mostly written before the baby comes,
yeah,
so that then I've got some runway to record things, and that part of the job will be done. I'm really looking forward to it because we have a new guitarist, Ryan, who's phenomenal. We have a new bass player, David, who's a professional composer, and I'm sure he'll be bringing some great ideas to the album. And I'm a lot of like discussing all these songs. A lot of these songs originated between 2011 and 2015. We're very different people in 2026 than we were in
yeah,
2012, and so it's going to sound quite different. It's going to have different. It's still going to be mostly. I'm still piloting the ship.
yeah.
Hollis is still making significant contributions. Like, that's still the core of the sound is his compositional voice and my compositional voice and how they work together, and then my sort of production of it. But I'm really excited about the ideas that Ryan and David are going to bring, and sort of the change in sound that's going to bring. So
Does it look like a concept album or a sci-fi? You won't mention it, or what
uh,
could be
I don't want to
something
go too.
different.
I don't want to let too much out of the bag because it's subject to change.
Okay.
You know, it's only 15% written at this point. I've got lots of ideas, but not a lot concrete. I have a very specific idea of what I want it to be.
Oh, okay.
But I don't want to say too much because it
That's
might not
okay.
end up being that. So.
All right. And it double album because you write very prolifically, but
Well, no, the double album was an accumulation of like 12 years worth of material.
that's true. But
So no, I don't think so. But you never know. Maybe when we really once the covers album
once
is
you get
made, I'm
going,
gonna
yeah.
dive in, and like and Ryan in particular is a really prolific writer, and I actually play. He has his own project which I play bass in, which is loads of fun, and he writes fantastic songs, and gonna steal a little bit of his stuff and put it in. We'll see. I'm
Go,
not anticipating. I'm not anticipating an epic, massive project. I want to sort of do just a 45 to 55 minute like album. I personally like. There's some phenomenal albums that are 70 or 80 minutes long, but I like a 45 to 55 minute album where you can put it on and be done in under an hour, and you can digest it all at once. So that's probably where things will end up.
and if you can remember to send me his
Absolutely.
information. Well, that too, but I mean, but his information, I wouldn't mind listening to his album and
Oh,
his.
Ryan's. Yeah, we don't
Yeah,
have an album out yet with that project, but hopefully, sometime. It's not prog. It's like indie rock and
that's
sort of
okay.
alternative pop music and things. But it's great stuff. So yeah, I'll send it your way once we've got something to share.
All right. Well, we've covered everything. I kind of skipped usually I talk about hobbies and things like that. It sounds like you are too busy for hobbies, but um, if you want to mention any of those, other than that, I just usually this last question is there anything that I missed? And I don't know how we could have missed anything. You've covered
No, I mean we can
everything.
go
Yeah.
for 2 hours. I think we covered everything
Yeah.
pretty thoroughly. So I don't think there's anything that was missed. So I really appreciate. I will go give that review a read now.
Well,
I sorry I
I
missed
missed
it,
the
but
boat on the moon stuff. So
like I said, it's when it's out there
but
in the world,
it
it's
was
people have
fun.
great
Yeah, I kind of went
interpretations
on
to it,
my
and that's
own
totally fine.
course, which sometimes I
Um,
did.
but yeah, I mean, thank you so much for the kind words and for taking the time to do this, and it means a lot. It's really, um, it's awesome that it's a small audience, but it's been such a positive reception that we've been receiving recently, and you know, you toil away in your room by yourself for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours, and then you let it out in the world, and you don't know if anybody's going to pay any attention at all. So it's really
The
makes you want
other
to do the next one.
the other thing is I definitely want to add it to my collection of CDs here. So
Oh, I'll send you one.
we
Yeah,
we can talk about that after. No, I want to buy it, but I'd like you guys to sign it if you would. But
I've got so I have a stack that are half signed,
oh,
um,
okay,
and going the wrong way. There we go. Our violinist, he has been out of town for a little while, but he's going to be back in a couple of weeks. So when he's back, we will finish signing the stack, and then I can get you a signed one.
perfect. Yep. But yeah, definitely I want to add that to the collection up here. Like I said in the review, I think that's going to be in the top 10. So, and that's what I do at the end of the year. You may see the numbers at the top.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, at the end, line them up but yeah, definitely this people, if you haven't heard Versa, like I hadn't heard, you need to. It's like it used to be. No, they're not copying anyone. Whenever I say that, people are like, "Oh my God, it's another Genesis reboot." No, 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 no. These guys have the discipline, the composure, that's not the right word, the composition ability to create music like we used to listen to in the 60s and 70s. They put the effort in, they do the research, they are pros. Yeah, I mean, even though they're not doing this full time, you would assume they're doing it full time because it sounds like that. And um, you just when somebody's putting that much effort into it, you got to give them a chance to just listen to it. Now, you may not like it, or you may not like certain songs, and yeah, they don't expect you to like everything, but really, this is when you get this every maybe 5, 10 years, you get a big album like this. You really got to enjoy it, and I'm enjoying it, and I'm new to it, so I just going to keep listening to it more and more.
Well,
And I
thank you
hope
so
you'll
much.
give it a chance, really.
Thank you. That's very kind of you to say.
A voyage, a destination. I mean, how can you avoid that? How can you not want to take a trip in the mind, and just sit back and listen to some beautiful music with some wonderful singers and well-known people, and yeah, it's got it all. You definitely want to give this a chance, so please do that. And Matthew, thank you for every minute. And yeah, he's right. It's been about 2 hours. We just and I knew I talked to him for a while. I didn't think it was this long, but he's yeah, I mean, just get out there and get this. It really is magnificent. I'm looking for everything these guys do. Excuse me, and hopefully, like I said, we'll get together towards the summertime and maybe meet over in Victoria or Tofino or somewhere like that. Tofino is just absolutely beautiful people.
Yeah.
It's like a California beach, and I haven't been there, but I've seen enough pictures to want to go. But yeah, thank you, thank you. Yeah, let's get back to. Thank you very
Well,
much,
thank you.
Matthew. I appreciate
Yeah,
it.
thank you very much.
Tell everyone, yeah, I'm looking forward to meeting as many as I can. But you guys really did some awesome work here, and thank you
Oh,
very
thank you.
much. Keep
Thank you.
including the progressive community like you do. I love the way he's talking about keeping the progressive community together. That's how it survived back in the 60s and 70s. Back then, it was more competition. But at the same time, people drifted across to different bands and things like that. And it's happening now. And we want to keep all these guys are independent musicians with families and, working full time. So give them the chance and support them as much as you can. He's afraid to say that. Yeah, my wife is like, end it. And
Thank you.
it's like, well, hey, thank you very much. All right, I'm
Yeah,
going to go ahead and push stop record. But hey, thank you again,
thank
Matthew.
you as well. Yeah, I
Versa,
really appreciate
a
it.
voyage, a destination. Go and enjoy this. Okay, hold on.